Hello everyone and welcome back to the third video of our series on basic SQL tutorial. So in this video we would be discussing about the SQL CRUD operations, which stands for to create, read, update and delete the values from the SQL tables. So let's get started. Okay, so in the last part of the video we have already discussed how we can install a DBMS system in our PC. So we installed MySQL Workbench and the server. And then after installation, we see how we can create a database in our server, how we can drop a database, that is how we can delete a database from our server, and then how we can use the database in order to create the tables. Just remember, a database can contain multiple tables inside it. So this use command is nothing but the database which I'll use will become active, and whatever tables I'll create from now on will be stored in this particular database only. Okay, so today we would be seeing the CRUD operations, where I'll be going step by step, walking through how we can create a table and then how we can insert new values in the table, how we can read those values from the table, how we can update the values, and at the last how we can delete those values from the table. So let's get started with the first step. Now in order to create a table, you just need to write create table and then the table name. Now you can choose any name that you want, but since my database consists of my content about the YouTube channel, so I'll create a table on all the videos that I have on the channel. So I'll give it a name of my content and then brackets and semicolon. So that's the basic structure for creating a table. Okay, after then we need to create columns of our table. So let's say we can create ID column in the beginning. So it's a unique value column which would be assigned to so these are the IDs which are assigned to the videos on the YouTube. So I'll have those IDs in the first column, then the title of the video, then I'll be having also the date on which I published the video, and at last I'll also have a column under the name views. So it will contain the views that I got for that particular video. Okay, so this is like the basic skeleton. We have the table, we have the columns. Now the next thing that we want to do is to define the data types of the values that will be stored in those columns. So we'll go step by step again. For the ID column, I want to store the numbers inside this column. So I'll use an integer data type. Okay. For the title column, I need to store it string values. So I'll use a data type of varchar and give it a limit of 30 characters because I know my video titles are not longer than that. Don't worry about the data types. I'll be going through them one by one in a few seconds. So for the date, there's a already defined format. So I'll use that, and then views again I'll have integer data type. Okay, so let's see what all the data types are there in these SQL. So you can, if you want to see these data types, you can just go on to this link and on sqlbolt.com. That's a good website to learn SQL as well. So, and here you can see the data types that are used commonly in SQL. So integer is a data type which is again to store the integer values. Then we have boolean, where you can store values like 0 or 1, which is equivalent to true or false. Then you have float, double and real for storing the decimal or the fractional values that you have. Then in order to store the string values, you have data types of character, varchar and text. So there's a slight difference between character and varchar. So varchar means something as variable character. So in order to see about the character, let's say I write here char 30. So what will the server do now is, whenever this is compiled, the title column will be assigned 30 characters inside the memory. Okay, and these 30 bytes of memory will be stored for all the values in the title column. Now whenever I have a title, let's say PCA, which is just 3 characters, all the rest of 27 bytes will go waste because those 27 bytes will not be used for any other purposes, as it is assigned for this particular column only, and that's fixed. But when I say varchar, Here also the system has assigned 30 bytes of memory for the column title, but if I have a title name which is PCA, then the rest of 27 bytes will be used for some other variables, and that will not go waste. So that's the major difference between char and varchar. So varchar is more memory efficient in that terms. Okay, so we understood that. Then text is also to store the string values. Then in order to store the date, we have date. In order to store date along with the time, we have date time data type. And at the end we have blob data type, which is big large objects. So it's nothing but to store the binary data, and but in these cases these data are opaque that you can't see them, so you have to have a right metadata to requery them. So we'll not use this data type much, so you don't have to worry about it. Okay, so we have our column, we have our data type. The next thing that we want to do is to have the constraints that we want in the values on that column. So let's say for the ID, I want a constraint of primary key. I want it to be a primary key. Now primary key is nothing but a unique identifier to each row of the table. So it is a unique value which is assigned to all the rows in the table. So it will be a unique value, it would be a non-null value. These two constraints will already be implied whenever I say primary key constraint. So these are the basic characteristics of primary key, but the main purpose of it is to form a link between the tables in the relational database through primary key and foreign key concept. But you don't need to worry about that now. I'll be going on that in the later part of this video. Okay, so the next constraint that I want for the title is, let's say I don't want it to be a null field. So whenever I have a null value in the title, it will not allow me to do that. So I want that there should be some title mentioned for each of my video. Then I don't want any constraints on the publish date. Then for the views, I don't want any constraint. So yeah, so that's all the constraints that I want for this particular table. Now if we want to see more about the constraints that we have, so these are the common constraints that we use in the SQL. So the primary key, as I've already told, is a unique identifier and identifies a single row in this table. Then we have auto increment. So whenever you have an integer value, let's say you have a table containing the data about the students in a particular classroom, then the roll number field could be assigned this constraint as auto increment, because whenever there is no whenever this field is kept empty, automatically a number will be inserted which is incremented with each row. So whenever you have, let's say, 2 for one row, the next row will be assigned 3 automatically. So that's a constraint which is useful in that case. Then you have a unique constraint. Unique constraint is nothing, you want all the values inside that columns to be unique. So you can't have same values and it will not allow you to do that. Then you have not null constraints. Again, I have already told about it. So you can't have a null value inside each of the column. Then you have check expression. So you can put a constraint of check and then put a expression. Let's say I want to see that the value stored in this column would be greater than 30. Then it will, whenever you store the values, insert the values in the table, it will always check this particular expression if this is true or false, and only if this is true it will allow you to store those values, otherwise it will not allow you to do that. Okay, then the last is the foreign key. So foreign key is another key which is stored in another table. So this key is then linked to the primary key of the table that we have created just now. So we'll use this foreign key concept in the later part of this video. We'll see that and we'll see how we can form a link between those tables. Okay, so we know we have our columns, we know we have our data types, we know we have our constraints to each of the columns. The last optional value that we can have is to put a default value to our columns. That is, whenever the column value is kept empty, that is whenever you don't assign any value, there must be a default value that you want to put in. Then you can use that. optional argument. So I want that to be used for my views column. So for that I'll type in default, and then the default value that you want. So I want to have 0 value. By that I mean is whenever there is no views or whenever this column is kept empty for a particular video, then I would want it to say that okay, this video doesn't got any views till now. So that's the default value that I want. Again, just notice one thing, you don't have to type everything in caps lock, every reserved words. You can also type in in the small case, and it will take it as the key. So I'm just writing it for the sake of clarity. Okay, so we have created our table now in our server, and then we can run this to see if it executes or not. Okay, so it says create table successful. So I can just refresh my database, and you can see here is my table that I have created just now. And you can also click this inspector button to see the information about the table. So this is the inspector window, and if I go to the columns tab, you can see we have columns on ID, publish date, title, views. So these are the columns that we have created, the type of the data that we want inside these columns. So I have this default value for the views, so it's shown here. Then we have nullable. So for title we use not null constraint, so it should not be a nullable value. And for the ID we use primary key, so it automatically took it as a non-null, not null constraint. Okay, so we have our table in the server. So the next thing that I want you to do is create your own table, and please, I want you to do it and try it on your own, because it will help you to learn SQL much faster. So you have to create a table under the name subscribers, which will contain the columns under the name video ID, name and location. So the video ID is nothing but the ID which is linked to the video that I have already used in my own table, and then the name of the subscriber which subscribed the channel using that video after watching that particular video, and then the location from where the subscriber is. So that's the information that we want to put in the table name subscribers. So I have given you the column names. Now you are free to choose all the data types, the constraints or the default values that you want to have in the table. So you have that freedom, and just try it on your own and see. Let's see what you can do. So you can pause the video here and we can move on to the next part if you have already done it. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is to insert the values in the fresh table that we have created. So in order to insert values, you can just type in insert into and then the table name. So I have already created my content, so I'll use that table, and then you need to put values and then the brackets for each of the rows that you want to insert. Okay, so that's the basic format of inserting those values. So you have insert into, which is also again the reserved keyword, then the table name, values is again a reserved keyword, and then you insert the values for each of the rows. So every bracket will contain one row data. So here I'll be inserting only 2 rows, so I'll just use 2 brackets. Okay, so that's it. So I know my content table has ID, title, publish date and views. So I'll start with the ID column. So I'll have an ID of 1. I'll have the title as principal component analysis. Then next is publish date. So let's see when I publish the video. It is on 2023 December on 17th, and the number of views that I got till now is, I don't remember. So okay, I'll use this as random. So that's the 600 views I got, and then for the next I'll use a second video and I'll create it on attention is all you need. So that's the video I have also published, and the date I published it on was 2024 January of 2nd, and I think this also has views something around 640 or 45, I don't remember. Okay, so these are the two rows that I have inserted, and now if I want to execute it, I just select and then execute. So you see it's successfully inserted the values. Now in order to see the table data, you need to first know the query of select. So I'll go down and I'll just show you the basic query that you can use in order to read the data, and we'll come again later on this particular query. So in order to read the data, you type select star from the table name. I'll explain this command later, but for now, in order to just see the effects of the insert command, we are executing this command. So whenever we have this, you see that's the table data that we have already. So we have ID, title, publish date, views, everything that we want is there right now. Okay, now we can also check the constraints that we have put it. So for the ID column, we have a primary key constraint. So that means it should be unique value for this column. So if I have, let's say, 2 for again the same column ID, the same number, and I have any other video, let's say attention is not unique, based on 2040, and views that I will have is 0 right now. Okay, so let's see if I run this command. Okay, but I need to separate it because I don't want to insert these values again, it will give me an error. Okay, so I'll run it separately, and when I run it, you say it gives you an error, duplicate entry 2 for key my content.primary. So since this was a primary key, you can't put a duplicate entry. And what else constraint that we had? So not null. Okay, so for the title, if I have a null value, I have null here. Let's see, it gives you an error saying that column title cannot be null. Okay, so these are the constraints that will take effect as soon as you try to insert the values in the table. Okay, so we know how we can insert the values in all the columns, of course. So we have inserted all the values in a row for all the columns that we know of. But what if we want to add the values to only selected columns that we want? So for that, you just need to change one thing. So you need to write insert into again my content, then values. Now before writing the values, you type in, after the table name, you type in the column names that you want to put in the values to. So for that, let's say I want to put values into ID and title. Okay, so I'll just type in the column names, ID and title, then values, then I'll type in the row values. So since I have used only 2 columns, so I'll give the values for ID, which is 3, and then the title, any new title that I want to give, let's say basic SQL tutorial. So that's for this video, and I just put a semicolon, don't forget that, and I will execute this command. So this is executed. Again, to see the effect, we'll just run this command, and you will see that there's new row, but with values only inside the column ID and title. All the other values are empty. And you can see here for the views, we have the constraint of default value to be 0. So since I have not put any values in the views column, it has automatically assigned a value of 0 into the views column. So that also helps here. Okay, so now we know that we can insert also the values by choosing a specific columns. But let's say there's also one variation that you can do. Let's see. So insert into my content and then values. Instead of you instead of putting the values directly, you can also put in the expressions in the column. So let's say I'll just put my content and I want to fill in the values for views column. So you'll understand this in a moment. Okay, so I want to put the values only inside the column of views, but I don't know actually how many views that I have got. But I know, let's say that every day on an average I got 400 views, and since the video was published, there are only 3 days that since then I have published the videos. So I'll just write 400 on an average and then multiply it by 3. So that's the expression that I can use. And then if I run the command, there is an error, field ID doesn't have a default value. Okay, so I haven't put the value in the ID, and since the ID column is the primary key, we can't have a null value in the ID. So I also have to fill in the ID value. So let's say a new ID of 4, and then I'll run this command. So hopefully it should run now. Okay, it's not running. It says title doesn't have a default value. Okay, so I have to put title as well because I've used not null constraint in the title as well. Okay, so see how these constraints are actually being making the system robust, and you can't have any values inserted because they are putting a check on any time I want to insert the values. So for the title, I can have, let's say, basic SQL tutorial part 2. Okay, so now if I run, it should run. It says column count doesn't match value count at row 1. Column count doesn't match. I have not inserted the column title. Yes. Oh, please, it should run now. Okay, it's successful now. Now we can see this by executing this command, and you can see that the 4th row that we have inserted have number of views of 1200, which is nothing but the multiplication of 403. So the whole point of showing you this is we can also have expressions that are used in the that are used to insert the values in the column. Okay, again an exercise question for you now. So you have already created a table under the name subscribers, and I hope you have done that. So now you have to insert 2 row values in that table, and I want you to use video ID of 1 and 3 for those 2 rows, and you can have any values for the columns name and location for your subscribers. So let's go here, let's pause the video, and I want you to please write that command and see how you can do that. And if you haven't created the table by now, you can also add the 2 row values inside the table which I have created just now. The next thing that I want you to show is the drop command. This is not in the sequence of the CRUD operations, but I want you to show how you can drop a table, which is just like dropping a database, because sometimes it may happen that we create table by mistake and then we want to start over again from the beginning. So for that we must know this command. So for dropping a table, you can just say drop table and then the table name, my content. It's just that simple. And if I run this, you'll see the table has gone. And you can also have an optional argument if exists. So, okay, so let's say if I run it again here now, you'll see that there is an error because it says there is an unknown table, because there is already table which is deleted. So there is no such table, my content, in the database. So in order to prevent this error, you have an optional argument of if exists. So it will check if this table exists or not in the database, and then only it will drop the table. So if I run this command, you'll see there is a no error. It's just giving me a warning, which is fine. So it says there is a warning that there was no table, and so I have not dropped any table using this command. So this command is necessary for you to learn, because it will happen that by mistake you'll make tables with some wrong columns or insert some wrong values and you want to start over again, so you can use this command and do that. So okay, so the next thing in the CRUD is the read command. So the read command is to read the values from the table. So we have already seen a basic command which is select star from the table name. So what it does is, let's see, so select is the keyword, then you have to write in the column name that you want to have. So right now we don't have a table. Let's just create the table once again so that we can use this command. And okay, so if I just refresh it, we'll have a table, my content, and if I just run this command again, we'll see the content of our table. Okay, so we have our content. Now if you want to see a particular column only, what you do is, instead of using star, you have to use the column name. So if I want to see all the videos that I have published till now, let's say, so I'll use select the column name that I want to see from the table name. So if I run this command, see, you have the list of all the videos that you have published until now. So you only see the title, and when you don't know what all columns are there, you can just type in the star command first and see all the columns inside the table, and then you can choose to see what columns you want to see. So that's the basic command that you have in order to read the values from the tables. But when you dive deep into it, you'll see there's a whole lot of different commands in order to fetch in the information that you want to see from the database. And those are the commands that data scientists and data analysts use very much often in order to gain the information from the database only in the way that they want to see it. So you have much more keywords to have. So here we have you select from the table, then you can have the where condition that you want to see only the rows that satisfies your condition. Then you can have inner join, outer join, left join, right join, which are the joins that you can use in order to join different tables and have a common data that you want to see. And then you can have order by command, group by commands to order the to sort the values inside your table and so on. So there is a whole set of commands that you can use for this, and we'll cover that in the next part of this video, not today. So today we will be covering just the basic command, which is select star from my content, and I'll show you one more thing. So if we run this, you have all the tables. But what if I want to see the videos only with the views are greater than 620? So we can use this where condition where views are greater than 620. It's just as simple as that. And then if I run this, you'll see the video with the 600 views is not shown here. So using these commands, you can manipulate the information that not manipulate, you can manipulate the way that you are getting the information from the database. So I'll not cover more of this command in this video, but we'll for sure covering the whole set of commands in the next part. Okay, so we have created our table, we have inserted our values in the table, we have read the values from our table. Then the next thing is, if you want to update the values inside the table, so for that you need to write update, then your table name, my content, then set. Now you want to set a value to something else. So I want to set, let's say for this particular video, attention is all you need. I just saw that while creating this video, the views has got up from 645 to 650. Okay, so that's the basic command, but I need to put a where condition as well, because if I don't have a condition, it will set the views to 650 for all the videos that I have. So I need to put a where condition where now I'll use the ID column, because I know that's unique to each of the rows. So where ID equals 2, and then I'll end it with a semicolon. Okay, now if I execute this, it's been executed successfully. And now if I see the values through the select command, and then you'll see that the views for this video has got from 645 to 650. So that's how you can update the values inside your table if you want to change any values. But always remember that you should use this condition, otherwise what will happen is all the values of views column will be set to 650, and you never want to do that if you have a huge database with you. So let's say you are still in a doubt that if it will set the value of correct row. So in order to see that, you can just do is you can write this condition here in the select command, where you read the data and you don't change the data. So if I just use this, you'll see that it has selected the row in which I want to set the views. So I know the condition in the where keyword is right, and I have selected the right row. Now once you know, okay, the condition that I have put it is correct, I'll use that condition here. Simple. So always have this check whenever you use these update commands. Okay, so we know now how we can update the values. Next thing, I want you to think on your own and use this command for your table that you have created. So you have created the subscriber table, I hope so, and you have also inserted the values under the video ID of 1 and 3. Now the subscriber which was related to video ID of 3 has updated his or her location to USA, and I want you to update that information in your table. So what you have to do is you just need to put in a condition where this row is selected, so where video ID is equal to 3, and then you have to set the location of that subscriber to USA. So just pause this video and do that, and then come back again. Okay, so next thing that we have is the final operation in the CRUD operations, which is the delete command. So this is used to delete the values from a particular table. So in order to do that, you have to type in delete from the table name, and then you again have to put in the condition, that row that you want to delete. So I'll just run this command to see what all rows we have right now. So you see we have 3 rows. Now if I want to delete a row, I want to delete a third row because I don't have a published date for this video. So what would I do is I'll use again the ID with a where condition. So where ID equal to 4. Okay, now you can use any column. You can use title equal to this much or views equal to this, but since they are not unique, or since I don't know always what is the exact title of my video, I'll use a simpler option to use the ID for each of the video or the rows. So I'll just execute this command, and okay, it's been executed. And now if I read the content of the table, you'll see that row has been deleted. Okay, so here as well, please remember you have to use this condition very carefully. If you have missed this condition and you use this command, all the data from your table will be deleted, and you never want to do that whenever you are in, let's say, in a company or so. Okay, so we have completed all the steps in our CRUD operations. We have created the table, we have inserted the values in the table, we have read the values from the table, we have updated those values if those are incorrect, then finally we have deleted the rows from the table if we don't want them. Okay, but if you see, all the commands that we have learned till now deal with the values which are stored in the table. But what if we want to change the table itself? What if we want to add a new column? What if we want to drop a column? Or what if we want to rename the table itself? Then for that we have another command, which is the alter command. So let's learn about that. So in order to alter the table itself, you can choose different things. You can choose to add a new column, you can choose to drop a column, you can choose to rename the table, and we'll go one by one on how you can do that. So in order to, let's say, add a new column to the table, you can say alter table, then the table name. You can also alter the table that you have created, and then you just use add. Then you can add the column name that you want to have. So let's say in my table I want to add a column of average duration as well, that is the duration for which my video was shown, or the duration for which the subscriber watched the video. Okay, so again, just like before, I want to add the name of the column, I want to add the data type. So for data type, I'll use the float command because I'll be using decimal values to write in the duration. Then I have to write the constraints if I want to have for this again. So for this, I'll not have any constraint, but I'll have a default value of 0, just like in the use column. Okay, so this command is completed now. Just execute this command and see. Okay, so there's something changed, and let's run this command to see how our table looks like. Okay, so there is this new column which is added, which is the average duration, and because we have used a default value of 0, all the rows are filled in automatically with the 0 value. Okay, so we have seen how we can add the column. Let's say I want to drop a column, which is let's say I have added a column which was not suitable for me at the later stage. So I'm adding a new column, let's say temp, with an integer data type, and I just execute this. I'll run this through this read command. You'll see this is a temp column that I have also added, and I don't have any default value, so all the values inside the column is null values. But I don't want that column, okay, and so I want that, so I'm just dropping that or deleting that column. So for that, again, you write alter table name, and then instead of writing add, you write drop and then the name of the column. Simple. So you just execute this command and something has changed in the table. You just run this select command and you'll see that column has been removed. Okay, so now we also know how we can remove a column, but what if we want to change the name of the column, name of the table itself? So I'll just use the same command, alter table name, and then instead of writing drop, I'll use rename. And I thought, let's say this name is not that relevant, but I will have a new name of my videos instead of my content, because content can be anything, right? Any blog or any voice note and anything. So I'm specifically talking about the videos. I want the name of the table to be changed from my content to my videos. Okay, so it has been changed. Now if I just run this command, you'll see this will give me an error. Why? Because there's no table with the name my content. There's new table, that is there's not new table, but the old table, which is my content, has been renamed to my videos. And if I just execute this command, so you'll see this is the same table that we had, but under the name of my videos. So that's how you can alter the table using these alter commands. Okay, and now I want you to do the same. So you thought that it is good to know about the age of your subscriber as well, so you want to add that column. Okay, so you want to add a column to your table that you have created under the name of age and with the constraint of not null and default value of 24. So I want you to write this, and please try it until you know how you can do it. And if you have any issues regarding any of the exercise questions, please write in the comment sections and I'll solve that for you in the comment section only. So after you do this, there's one more exercise question, and this is the last and easy exercise question, I promise. So you have to rename the table that you have created under the name subscribers from subscribers to subscribers temp. And I want you to do that because I'll be creating another table under the same name of subscribers, and if there's already a table under this name that exists, then you'll face issues and errors. So please change the name to another name, whatever name you want, or this name that I've already written here, so that we can create another table to understand the concept of primary key and foreign keys. So just pause this video and do that. Okay, so let us create the table subscribers. So we use the same command that we have already used, and now we want to add columns. So we already discussed in the exercise chart that we want to have 3 columns for this table. So one is the video ID, then the name of the subscriber, and then the location. Okay, so we have our column names for the table. Then if you remember, we have to have the data types for each of the columns. So for video ID, I want to have integer data type. Then for the name, I want to have a string, so I'll use variable character, not simple character, because I want variable memory location, and I'll use 20 bytes of memory for the name, and same for the location, I'll use 20 bytes. Okay, so we have the data types with us. Next thing, if you remember, we have to have the constraints if we want to have for the values. So for the video ID, I'll have a constraint for foreign key, but I'll not use that right now. I'll show you separately. So okay, so for the name, I'll have another constraint of not null. For the location, I'll have a constraint of not null again. And now there comes the time to apply the constraint of foreign key for the video ID. So in order to do that, you have to separately write the keyword foreign key, and then you have to provide which column of your table should be a foreign key. Okay, so I want video ID as a foreign key, but as soon as I define it as a foreign key, I have to reference it to a primary key of another table. So that will help me to create a link between these tables. So I have used the table that we have created. Remember, we have renamed it just a few minutes ago, and then the column that is unique or that is assigned primary key in that particular table. So those are linked now. So now we can run this command and execute it. You'll see it says subscribers. Okay, I've already created table subscribers before, I think. So I'll just drop that and run it again. Okay, so the table is deleted, and then I'll run this. Okay, so this table is created now, and you can see this by running the select star command. So okay, you can just run this command and see we have already created a table with these 3 columns. Okay, but let us also understand and get an intuition behind this foreign key and primary key concept. Let us consider the subscriber table is the person 1, and the my videos table that we have already created is person 2. So person 1 contains foreign key, person 2 contains primary key. Okay, so the person 1 has the information about the name of the subscribers and the location where they are located, and he's just curious. Okay, this subscriber from Chicago, I want to know from which video he actually got interested in my YouTube channel and subscribed to my channel. So he doesn't have the information right now about the videos that he watched. So he knows that person 2 knows about it. So he goes to person 2 and asks, hey, I want to know about this subscriber and what video he was watching when he subscribed to my channel. So person 2 is like, okay, but how would I know that? Then person 1 knows, okay, we have a column common to us. So whatever the video ID that I have corresponds to the ID in the column of person 2. Okay, so then they discuss, oh, that's great. So then person 1 says, okay, the video ID of this subscriber was 2. And then person 1 says, okay, let me check in my list. I have the video ID of 2 with this particular video. And then he knows, okay, for this video ID, you have the video name, the title, the published date, and the views. And then he tells it to the person 1. And now both are happy. So what happened in this whole scenario was that they had this column which was common to both of them, but the person 2 with the my videos and the primary key constraint has the column which with the unique values, but person 1 can have multiple duplicate values. So person 1 can have video ID of 2 for more than one subscriber. So it would be like, this subscriber has also watched video 2, the another subscriber has also watched video 2, and then he'll go to person 2. Will ask about the information for both the subscriber, and then you'll see that both the subscribers have watched this video, which is the same. So that's the basic intuition behind this foreign key and primary key, and I hope you understood a little bit about this concept, and that actually helps when you have multiple and huge number of tables in the database. Then you can link every table to another table using this key concept. Okay, so that was the whole idea behind the primary key, foreign key. And we have also discussed in this video about the CRUD operations, which are used to create, read, update, delete the values inside the tables. Then we also see how we can alter the table itself by using the alter command, where we saw how we can add a new column, how we can delete a new column, or how we can rename the table itself. And then at the end, we understood the concept of primary key and foreign key. Now in the next part of the video, I'll be discussing more about this read command, and learning that part of the SQL would really be interesting and important at the same time. So I want you to please subscribe this channel and hit the like button if you learned something today. And thank you for watching, and see you in the next part of the video.